Hello there and welcome back to the Science Sleepy Minds. You're floating in the velvet vacuum of space, and it's just as unsettlingly quiet as you'd imagine. No engine hum, no distant radio crackle, just the weightless silence of a universe that doesn't care whether you exist or not. A few meters away, your ship hums faintly in standby mode, its lights blinking at a steady rhythm. They're the last artificial pulses of time you'll understand for a while. You shift slightly in your suit. The stars don't. They stay pinned, motionless, indifferent. Except for one part of the sky. Dead center, a piece of the cosmos looks like it's been erased with an inky thumbprint. That's no smudge, that's the black hole. And it's very, very real. Sagittarius A star, the supermassive black hole at the heart of our Milky Way galaxy, is about 4 million times the mass of the Sun. From this distance, it looks calm, but you know better. That shadowy spot is surrounded by a faint halo of light, the accretion disk, particles whipped into blinding speeds as they circle the drain of space-time itself. You're not close enough to feel it yet, but you're going to be. Soon. You probably won't survive this. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And hey, drop your location and local time in the comments. I love seeing where in the universe you're tuning in from. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You're drifting toward the event horizon now, that invisible one-way gate to gravitational doom, but no need to panic. The ship's guidance is slow and deliberate, like it's trying not to wake the laws of physics. You don't feel like you're moving fast, but your instruments disagree. In fact, you're accelerating. The stars start to stretch, warping into long filaments. It's not just your imagination, or your eyes, you're actually seeing the bending of space-time. That's right. Gravity isn't just pulling on your body, it's tugging on the literal fabric of the universe, warping the geometry around you. A star that was once off to your right now seems in front of you? Cool. Terrifying. Both. This is gravitational lensing, a historical staple since Einstein first predicted it in his general theory of relativity back in 1915. It was actually confirmed during a solar eclipse in 1919, when scientists observed stars appearing in the wrong places due to the sun's gravity bending their light. Back then, it shook the world. Here, now, it's just how things are. And here's a juicy tidbit for your mental scrapbook. Some ancient cultures believed eclipses were cosmic dragons devouring the sun. You kind of relate to that now, because ahead of you lies a true cosmic beast, and you're headed straight into its jaws. Time has already started to stretch, although you don't quite notice it yet. Your internal clock is ticking along, heartbeat normal, breath steady. But the external universe has started to accelerate. If someone were watching you from a distance, say your earthbound clone, they'd see you slowing down. To them, you look like you're moving through molasses. To you, it just feels like now. You check the ship's onboard clock, then your wristwatch. They're already out of sync. It's slight, but enough to make your brain itch. Historians still argue whether ancient civilizations had any intuition of time behaving differently under the stars. Some say yes, through myth. Others call it projection. You'll have more than intuition soon. As you approach the photon sphere, the point where light itself can orbit the black hole, you see the universe begin to shimmer. Light from behind the black hole curves around it like it's dodging something. It creates a perfect eerie ring. This isn't CGI. It's gravitational optics at their best. The photons themselves are being caught in a whirlpool, trying to escape but failing, spinning infinitely. You sip water from your bottle, and it floats back at you in slow blobs. Not because time is slowing inside the ship, but because every frame of your reality is starting to lag behind the outside world. Your Earth twin, if we want to keep dragging them into this, is now 5 minutes older than they were 10 seconds ago. Outside, stars flicker oddly. Not twinkling, smearing. They blur into arcs. It's like your vision has gone into long exposure mode. That's the gravitational time dilation really kicking in. You're not just losing sync with clocks, you're losing sync with reality itself. A buzzer sounds. You've reached the outer edge of the accretion disk. Here, it's a wind tunnel of radiation and matter so hot, it emits X-rays. You can't hear it, of course. Space doesn't do sound, but your instruments scream with data. Magnetic fields clash. Particles collide at relativistic speeds. It's glorious chaos, and yet, you're calm. There's something profoundly still about being this close to death. Your brain can't quite process it all, so it doesn't. It dials everything down into silence and awe. The temperature readouts fluctuate wildly. You're protected for now by the ship's shielding, but it's like riding a bike through a volcano. With a polite smile, a random thought crosses your mind. Ancient Egyptians used to believe that time was the breath of a god, slow and deliberate, infinite but unknowable. You're starting to understand why. One last check on Earth. The screen shows your clone in their kitchen making breakfast. You squint. That's their grandchild. The timestamp confirms it. 10 minutes for you, 30 years for them, and you haven't even hit the horizon yet. The ship vibrates. Not because of engine strain, but because space itself is beginning to twitch. Like static under your feet. Like a low bass note from a speaker the size of a planet. You grip the rails and breathe. Slowly. Everything still works, but nothing feels quite real anymore. You're not dreaming, but time is. And you're about to dream even deeper. Your ship hums forward, almost lazily now, as if it too is starting to feel the drag of time unwinding. You pass through a wispy shroud of radiation, remnants of stars torn apart and strewn across the gravity well like confetti at the universe's most horrifying birthday party. The light here is wrong. It has a kind of bluish snarl to it. Not the colour you've seen before, and not one you want to see again. You're headed straight for Sagittarius A, the supermassive black hole lounging ominously at the centre of the Milky Way, about 26,000 light-years from Earth. You wouldn't call it a vacation destination, unless your idea of fun includes relentless time distortion and one-way trips into oblivion. You've committed, though. The ship is autopiloted, and you're already deep inside the galactic downtown district. No turning back. Not unless you brought a reverse warp engine and a therapist. You coast past strange celestial neighbours, massive stars orbiting with reckless abandon, flung around the black hole like terrified comets on espresso. The innermost ones are known as S-stars, and their movements were key in confirming Sagittarius A*'s presence. You catch a glimpse of one now, S2 maybe. It's blazing along at a few thousand kilometers per second, as if trying to outrun fate. Inside the ship, your body feels light, but not in the usual spaceflight way. There's a subtle tension in your joints, a hint that your frame of reference is beginning to detach from the universe's. Time dilation isn't just ticking along, it's starting to yawn. What used to be seconds now stretch ever so slightly, like warm taffy between the fingertips of the cosmos. Out the viewport, the black hole looms larger, not in a way that suggests motion, but in a way that suggests inevitability. It's not moving toward you, you're simply sliding toward it, helplessly, like a marble on a slope made of gravity. You're starting to feel behind, not tired, not slow, just lagging. Like a buffering video that can't quite keep up with the present. The stars ahead of you smear into gentle arcs, while the ones behind seem weirdly static. You blink, nothing changes. You blink again, still no change. That's when it clicks. The starlight itself is being manipulated. You're inside a bubble of distortion, moving forward through space-time like a person falling through stretched film. Back on Earth, if anyone is watching your telemetry, or your latest Instagram post, they're seeing it in delay, severe delay. They might even think you've stopped, froze, glitched. From their perspective, you're stuck in the slowest descent imaginable, like a feather falling through honey. But from your seat, the ship is still moving at speed. Remember the GPS in your phone? That little miracle of engineering wouldn't work if engineers hadn't accounted for time dilation. The satellites up there, floating just outside the thickest parts of Earth's gravity, experience time slightly faster than we do down here. Not by much, just microseconds. But microseconds matter when you're navigating by radio signals. If time dilation can nudge a Google map, imagine what it's doing to your nervous system right now. Historians still argue whether Galileo had any concept of gravitational time effects. He played with gravity, sure, but time? Probably not. Some like to read between the lines of his dialogue concerning the two chief world systems, searching for hints, but most agree, real-time games didn't start until Einstein came to the party, and now you're at the after-party, where Einstein's ideas go from cool theory to personal crisis. The black hole now takes up most of the forward window. It's not just black, it's beyond black. a circle of nothingness wrapped in spiraling chaos. The accretion disk around it glows like a halo on fire, white hot and flickering with the light of 1,000 dead stars. You almost want to reach out and touch it. Spoiler alert, do not touch. There's something oddly sacred about the moment. The ship vibrates as particles zip by, fried into oblivion by intense magnetic fields. You hear a faint crackle over the intercom. Not a voice, just the universe saying something unintelligible in the language of radiation. You check the screen showing your earthbound twin. They're at a wedding now. Maybe their second. Their hair is different. They've aged, laughed, loved, lived. Meanwhile, you're still floating forward, still in the same 10-minute window you started in. Your stomach twists, not from fear, but from disorientation. Time is relative, yes, but now it feels personal. It's yours, and it's being stretched like pizza dough. In the distance, another probe floats motionless, or so it seems, a relic from a past mission, abandoned just outside the event horizon. But if you look closer, its lights are blinking. They're just trapped in the same slow-motion loop as you. Its signal is still transmitting, but at a frequency so redshifted it's almost radio silence. It's been sitting here for decades, maybe centuries, and you're passing it in minutes. A strange thought crosses your mind. If you turned around right now and headed back to Earth, your return might feel instantaneous to you, but centuries would pass back home. You'd land on a planet where no one remembers you. Or worse, where they've all turned into energy beings and have no interest in your black hole selfies. In 1971, scientists put atomic clocks on planes and flew them around the world. They proved Einstein's theories right. Those airborne clocks ticked just a tiny bit slower than the ones on the ground. The experiment was groundbreaking, humbling. Now you're doing the same thing, just more dramatically. If this were a science fair, you'd win, and then disappear forever. You glance at the onboard clock again. You've been descending for what feels like 30 minutes. According to Earth time, it's been several years. Someone, somewhere, has probably written a think piece about your mission already. Someone else has definitely started a conspiracy theory that you never existed in the first place. A little known tidbit. The first serious theorizing about black holes came from John Michell in 1784, who wrote about dark stars that could trap light. No one took him seriously, of course, but here you are centuries later proving him right by being casually absorbed into one. You blink again, your hand twitches, the ship isn't vibrating anymore. You realise you haven't heard anything for several seconds. No fans, no feedback, no life support hum. Either the ship has malfunctioned, or your sense of time is unravelling completely. Your breathing is normal, but time around you is not. You're not dreaming, you're just falling. You're not sure when it happened, when the rules of the universe started whispering instead of shouting. Somewhere between the edge of the accretion disk and this moment, things softened. Not in comfort, but in comprehension. You look at the console. The blinking lights that once pulsed like a heartbeat now seem to crawl in slow, deliberate patterns, as if they too are unsure how fast they're supposed to be going anymore. Gravity is getting weird, not stronger, stranger. You're not pinned to your seat, not being crushed into goo. In fact, you're floating as lightly as ever. But there's a new sensation now, like your molecules are humming with confusion. You're getting close to the real action, the region where not even light dares disobey. Out the viewport, the black hole's edges begin to blur, like a painting left out in the rain. The gravitational lensing is in full force now, wrapping the entire universe into a swirling halo above and around you. You feel like you're inside a snow globe painted with stars, one that someone just shook with malicious intent. This is where things start to defy your Earth-trained instincts. Imagine trying to tell up from down in a funhouse with no mirrors and no gravity, where time has decided it's more of a guideline than a rule. Your instruments are still feeding you data, but it's starting to contradict itself. A signal says you're moving forward, another says you're falling. A third suggests you're somehow stationary. You're not just close to a black hole, you're in a physics negotiation zone. You begin thinking about Einstein again. He's become a kind of background character in this trip. His theories on general relativity laid the foundation for everything you're experiencing, and yet even he likely would have grunted, shrugged, and asked for coffee at this point. Gravity, in his model, isn't just a force, it's curvature. Massive objects bend space-time, and black holes bend it so much it tears. Historians still argue whether Einstein ever fully believed black holes were real. He didn't like singularities, places where math breaks and the laws of physics cry quietly in a corner. But later physicists pushed the math, and the cosmos answered back, yes, they exist, and you won't believe what they do to time. And speaking of time, you glance at your hands, they still move when you ask them to, but there's a weird float to the movement, as if your neural signals have to walk through pudding to reach your fingertips. You speak out loud just to hear something familiar. Testing. Your voice sounds normal to you, but if anyone could hear from the outside, it would come out as a deep, drawn-out moan, like a whale trapped in slow motion. Sound doesn't travel in space, of course, but the way time dilation works near a black hole would drag every vibration into something barely recognizable. That's because you're inching toward the place where time itself bends like taffy under heat. It's not all theory anymore, it's you, living, or at least existing, inside the dilation. Remember those thought experiments in science class? The one about the astronaut who flies at near light speed and comes home to find their younger sibling is now older than they are? That's the twin paradox. And right now, you are that astronaut, except with one minor upgrade. Instead of zipping through space, you're being swallowed by a point of infinite gravity. Bonus points for style. And here's a fringe theory for your overworked mind. Some physicists argue that from the perspective of an outside observer, you'll never actually cross the event horizon. You'll just appear to slow down endlessly, frozen in time, eternally falling. But you won't feel that. To you, everything still ticks until it doesn't. So who's right? Maybe both, maybe neither. Maybe time has gone out for a smoke and left you with a broken watch. You reach the pre-horizon zone, no warning lights, no alarms, just a quiet hush from your instruments as if they too are holding their breath. A faint shiver runs through the ship. It's not turbulence, it's frame dragging. The black hole's spin is pulling space itself along with it, like a whirlpool dragging the river. You're now spiraling without trying. Your ship is being twisted into alignment with a force so massive it doesn't even care that you're here. It's called the Lenz-Thirring effect, a name far too polite for what it's doing. Imagine trying to swim in a pool where the water itself moves sideways beneath you. That's what space is doing. You're being dragged sideways in time. Fun, right? A light on the console flickers red, then goes dark. Not broken, just forgotten. Left behind by the timeline you used to be in. More of them follow, blinking like confused fireflies before giving up. Out the viewport, the universe has officially gone Picasso. Starlight above you twists and smears into a corona of colour and distortion, warping in ways your brain doesn't want to decode. It's not made for this. Evolution never imagined this. You were built to run from lions, not past multi-dimensional light warps near cosmic singularities. A random trivia nugget pops up from the recesses of your memory. In the 1970s, the Soviet Union launched a space station called Salyut 1. It had its fair share of quirks, one of which was that its toilet used suction. You're reminded of this now because, well, suction is kind of what you're experiencing, just, for time. And here's the kicker. As strange as everything has become, it still feels normal inside the ship. That's the biggest trick of all. Time dilation doesn't come with fireworks, it doesn't scream. It just gently, quietly, makes you obsolete in the eyes of the universe. You peek one last time at your Earth twin. They're now elderly. They have grandkids, maybe great-grandkids. You, on the other hand, haven't aged a day. Not in any way that matters. They've lived a life. You've drifted 30 kilometers closer to a black hole. Perspective is cruel like that. Still no pain, still no fear, just awe. And a tiny voice in your head that wonders how far time can stretch before it snaps. You look up at the horizon, so close now you could almost touch it. Time has officially stopped. For everyone but you. The ship shudders, but not in protest. More like recognition. It's as if even the vessel knows something irreversible is about to happen. Not a malfunction, just a kind of quiet resignation. It's gotten you this far, and from here on out, well, time has other plans. Seconds begin to feel thick, not metaphorically, not emotionally, physically thick. Your thoughts lag behind your eyes. Your heartbeat is still steady, but it's as if the rhythm's been dipped in molasses. You reach up to scratch your cheek and the motion feels like you're waving through syrup. Nothing's wrong, and yet everything is bending away from normal. You're brushing against the deep edge of gravity now, and this is how time starts to protest. Not with drama, but with slow, stubborn resistance. Outside, the black hole fills the entire forward view. You've edged so close to the event horizon that there's no more ahead, just down. Not down like falling off a cliff, down like falling off reality. There's still no sound, of course, but the visuals are loud, loud in their silence. The accretion disk swirls with so much energy it should be chaotic, but it just spins, perfectly, eternally. And beneath it all, that impossible darkness waits. You're caught in the gravitational gradient now. Time isn't just dilated, it's actively twisted. From your vantage point, minutes pass like normal. But back on Earth, decades are likely sprinting by in time-lapse. Somewhere out there, technology is evolving. Presidents are rising and falling. Someone's probably invented scented nanobots for your laundry. You, meanwhile, are having the world's longest coffee break. It brings to mind a story. An astronaut named Gennady Padalka spent 879 days in space over his career, the longest of any human. Thanks to time dilation, he aged just a tiny fraction of a second less than those on Earth. Cute. You're about to beat his record by a few million years. Light from distant stars starts to swirl around you unnaturally. The gravitational lensing here is so strong, it's folding the entire universe into a crescent above your ship. It's called the Einstein ring, a visual effect where background galaxies are warped into a perfect circle by the black hole's gravity. You blink, and the universe smears again. This should be terrifying. It isn't. It's too slow, too deliberate, like death in a tuxedo. You pull up the navigation log. It's a joke now. Your velocity is listed as nearly zero, even though the engines are still technically firing, and yet you're falling. Falling with no speed, no sound, and no timeline. Historians still argue whether ancient Mayans had any concept of deep time, those long cosmic cycles that extend beyond human generations. Their calendars were intricate, celestial. Some say they hinted at the infinite. Others say we just like projecting big ideas onto old rocks. Either way, you now have a new respect for how time can stretch beyond comprehension. You unbuckle from your seat. Slowly. The straps loosen like warm taffy, each movement a deliberate ballet. You float toward the side window, drifting more like smoke than a person. There it is again, that sensation of your body moving but yourself lagging half a second behind. This is the first real hint of dissociation. Not psychological, gravitational. Your brain is built for Earth clocks. This is a place where clocks break before they can finish ticking. The black hole is whispering now, not in words but in certainty, in silence so deep it feels louder than noise. You know this is it, the point where even time has to raise its hands and walk away. You're about to cross the event horizon, that boundary beyond which nothing escapes. No matter, no light, no Netflix. And still, you feel fine. That's the kicker. The event horizon doesn't announce itself. It's not a wall. It's just a place. A boundary that means everything to the outside world and almost nothing to you. When you pass it, nothing happens. No sudden jolt, no blaring siren. Just the same slow drift. That's why, in theory, if someone watched you fall in, they'd never see you cross. To them, you'd slow down until you freeze at the edge, suspended in time like a cosmic screensaver. But you keep going. In your frame of reference, time ticks normally. It's just that your normal has now diverged completely from the rest of the universe. From their perspective, you're a statue. From yours, you're still breathing. You think of Voyager 1, still floating at the edge of interstellar space, still beeping home, still carrying that golden record with greetings in dozens of languages. You wonder if any record of you will survive, or if your signal will redshift into oblivion, a whisper stretched so thin it becomes a cosmic joke. A sudden flicker on the screen. Earth, or what used to be Earth. The image isn't live anymore, it's from an earlier point in your descent. The lag is now so bad, the screen might as well be a time capsule. You're watching people who are long gone. You reach for the console again. Your hand passes through the control holograms like they're ghosts. Not because they're broken, but because you are slightly out of sync with them. You're falling so fast through time that even photons inside the ship are starting to misbehave. Let that sink in. Light, the fastest thing in the universe, is struggling to keep up with you. You rub your temples, or at least try to. It feels like your fingertips are a frame ahead of your face. You're breaking into a different rhythm now, less human, more relativistic. You glance one last time out the window. The universe is smeared into a donut of impossible colour. Behind it, blackness, not emptiness, negation, the absence of everything, not just light, but meaning. A place where entropy takes a smoke break because there's nothing left to decay. And then it happens. You cross the event horizon. Nothing alerts you, there's no sound, no shift, no visual cue. But you know. You just know. Because the universe, as you understand it, vanishes. Every known point of reference is gone. Time, as far as anyone else is concerned, has stopped for you. But inside your capsule, it's just another Tuesday. The stars are gone. The halo is gone. The background hum of radiation has dropped to silence. There's nothing now but you, your heartbeat, and the gentle suggestion of direction. And yet, you've never felt more present. Welcome to the inside. Time doesn't make sense anymore, and yet you're still in it. Breathing, thinking, blinking slowly like someone who fell asleep in the middle of a sentence. You float inside the ship surrounded by dim red lights, though whether they're dim because of the setting, or because even photons are limping under this much gravity, you can't say. The black hole's interior, if you can even call it that, feels like the world's longest hallway with no doors, no light, no up or down. And here's the most deliciously awful part. To you, this is all perfectly fine. You haven't been crushed. You're not spaghettified. Your atoms aren't screaming. Not yet. You're still intact. From the inside, crossing the event horizon felt less like falling, and more like nothing. A shrug from the universe, but to someone watching from the outside, you never made it. You're still frozen at the edge, stuck in a single frame, like a paused video. This is the paradox. The twin paradox taken to its darkest extreme. Back home, or what's left of it, your genetically identical twin is long gone. If time were a race, they've run laps around you while you've been jogging through glue. What felt like an hour for you was a lifetime or more for them. You're the younger twin now, forever. The twin paradox has roots in special relativity, where one sibling zooms near light speed while the other stays on Earth. Upon reunion, the space-travelling twin has aged less. And while it might sound like science fiction, it's a proven concept. GPS satellites up there in orbit, they tick slightly differently because of time dilation. Engineers have to account for it, or your phone wouldn't know where the sidewalk ends. But here, near the black hole, that paradox has evolved into something monstrous. Your experience of time has become a local phenomenon, a deeply personal one, and no one outside your gravity well can agree with your clock anymore. You try to send a signal, just a simple ping. "Hello, Earth," the radio console chirps, but there's no confirmation, no echo, not even a static hiss. It's like your voice has been swallowed whole, because it has. Even if the signal did leave the ship, it would be so redshifted by now that any human receiver would dismiss it as background noise. A kind of gravitational white lie. Your message is still flying outward, technically, but its wavelength is so stretched it's less hello and more ah over the span of millennia. It's lonely here. Not just alone, but temporally alone. The worst kind. There's no going back, no real forward either. Just a soft drift inward, deeper into the well. You take another breath. The air is normal. Temperature, fine. Your heart rate, impressively calm. You think of Laika, the first dog in space, and how she must have felt surrounded by silence and metal. No idea what she was flying into. She didn't get a return trip. Neither will you. Historians still argue whether early Greek philosophers like Heraclitus ever truly grasped the elasticity of time. He wrote that you can't step into the same river twice, which feels eerily appropriate now. Because the river you're in isn't water, it's time, and it's stretching in every direction like bubblegum heated by a cosmic furnace. You look out again. Well, try to. But there's no window view anymore. Not really. No stars, no accretion disk, no helpful visual metaphors. Just blackness. Perfect blackness. Not the absence of light, but the refusal of light. It's not even trying to escape anymore. The ship's systems flicker, not because they're failing, but because light is simply done playing by your rules. The photons inside the cabin are still bouncing around, barely, but they're like drunk bees buzzing slower and slower. You clap your hands gently and watch the delay in the shadow on the wall. You're in a new kind of silence now. Not just the absence of sound, but the vacuum of change. Things don't really happen here. Or they do, just not at a pace you'd recognise. You could scream for an hour and that sound would take eons to crawl a few metres, assuming it ever did. There's a legend, a fringe tidbit whispered in online forums and late-night science podcasts, about a hypothetical camera at the event horizon. In theory, if it could survive there, it can't. It would see the entire future of the universe unfold in fast forward. Galaxies spinning out, stars dying, heat death, all of it in a blink. That's what happens when you hang out on time's slowest porch. Everything else speeds away. You wonder if you're seeing any of that now. You squint into the darkness, half hoping for flashes, ghosts of future suns, the final breath of the universe. But no, nothing. Maybe it's too soon. Maybe you're not on the porch. You're already inside the house and the door slammed behind you. And here's where it gets weird. Despite all this, the silence, the void, the absolute impossibility of your situation, you don't feel afraid. That's the unsettling part. Fear requires urgency, and urgency requires time. You've got neither. It's like being underwater, deep, where everything's heavy and slow and your only job is to exist. Not swim, not think, just drift. And yet your brain is still firing. Memories surface unprompted. Childhood, your first cup of coffee, the smell of burnt toast. Time is supposed to be linear, but here it folds like origami. You feel 10 years old and ancient at the same time. You don't even know what now is anymore. That's when you notice the lag, not just in objects, but in you. You raise your hand, you see it move, but the feeling comes half a beat later, like your nerves are lagging behind your body, like you're watching yourself in slow replay. You think of astronauts in VR sims who reported vertigo from laggy rendering, but this isn't simulation. This is physics slurring its speech. A phrase pops into your mind from an old documentary. Time is what keeps everything from happening at once. That used to be clever. Now it feels like a dare. The cabin dims again, not because of power loss, because photons are running out of motivation. The lights are on, but only technically. The glow is there, but it's tired. Tired in a way only light can be, after travelling through a soup of warped space-time and watching the rest of the universe age without it. Your watch? It stopped 10 minutes ago. Or 10 years. You're not sure. All you know is, time is no longer something you experience. It's something that happens elsewhere, and you're the exception. You can't remember the last time a minute felt like a minute. If anything, time has stopped pretending. It's not sneaking around anymore, it's just gone. Or at least no longer yours. What you're experiencing now is some personal off-brand version of time, brewed locally and completely incompatible with the rest of the universe. Outside your ship, well, outside anything, there's no motion, no light, no change, and yet you move. Forward, or inward, or downward. Pick a direction. They're all meaningless now. And that's when you see it. The edge. Or rather, the suggestion of one. A faint shimmer of curvature ahead, not made of light, but of how things aren't. The event horizon was supposed to be the limit. But here's the fun twist. Inside, there's more. A lot more. Just none of it makes sense. It's like you're navigating a maze built from invisible walls, where gravity folds around itself in spirals and time can't be bothered to keep score. Welcome to the inner sanctum. This is where black hole theory gets twitchy. You've passed the outer event horizon of a rotating black hole, also known as a Kerr black hole, named after Roy Kerr, the New Zealander who solved Einstein's equations for a spinning singularity in 1963. Before that, most black holes were considered perfectly spherical and boring, but Kerr's solution added spin, and with it, a whole new kind of weird. Now, instead of a single horizon, you've got two. That's right, two event horizons, one outer, one inner. You're in between them now, in the zone of infinite debate. Scientists still argue whether this space could actually exist as described, or whether it would instantly collapse into a singularity from the slightest perturbation. Spoiler alert, you are the perturbation. And yet here you are. The inner horizon, also called the Cauchy horizon, is a place where determinism goes out for lunch. You know, that comforting idea that cause leads to effect, that events have a neat before and after. Here, that rule buckles. At the Cauchy horizon, space-time stops promising to make sense. You see flickers now, not light exactly, not hallucinations either, just echoes, shimmering ghosts of energy that skitter across your vision like static on an old TV. You're witnessing the final remains of all the light, heat and radiation that ever fell into this black hole. That's what makes this region so unstable. It's a landfill of causality. You think you hear something, a whisper, a hum, a voice you recognize, maybe your own. But when you turn your head, the sound arrives late, delayed like a bad dub. There's lag inside your own skull. And now the strangest realization yet. It's not you that's moving forward. It's the universe that's moving around you. Time is no longer a dimension you travel through. It's a variable on shuffle. You float through pockets of time with different flavors. Some places feel slower, like you're caught in cosmic glue. Others speed up, showing rapid flickers of movement out the corner of your eye. Stars exploding, particles colliding, a birth and death playing out in half a blink. Historians still argue whether black holes destroy information or merely encode it beyond comprehension. Stephen Hawking said it could be preserved, but scrambled, like burning a book, yet keeping the smoke and ash. Others insist black holes violate the fundamental laws of quantum mechanics by erasing history entirely. You're not here to solve that. But you are experiencing something deeply unarchivable. Your onboard computer resets without warning, not from malfunction, but from contradiction. It can't process this region. Its algorithms weren't built to model time loops or overlapping causal frameworks. The ship still works, but it's behaving more like a day's tourist than a navigator. The controls feel gummy. Not physically, but temporally. You input a command, and the response comes back before you touch the button. You scratch your head. You feel the itch after your hand moves away. You laugh, or try to, but the laugh unspools oddly. Like a string unraveling from both ends at once. You check the external sensors, hoping for data. What you get instead is a wall of equations that won't sit still. The numbers dance, overlap, stretch. One formula seems to be calculating the ship's mass. It changes every second. Your mass is currently 1 human, plus or minus 40%, depending on the time slice you're measured in. You let the data scroll like a cosmic screensaver. You're too tired to fight the math, and then you see a flicker of something else. A light. A real one this time. Small, flickering, blue-white. It hangs like a candle flame in the windless void. You float closer, not because you can, but because the black hole allows it. The flame grows brighter. It's not a star. It's a photon that's been orbiting inside for billions of years, circling endlessly, decaying just slowly enough to still exist. Caught in a gravitational loop, a treadmill with no exit. You're watching light trapped in a memory. And then, another flicker. Not light. A shape. Brief. Angular. Mechanical. Could it be? Another ship? A probe? You realize with a stomach-dropping chill that it's yours. Your own ship from a few milliseconds ago, overlapping with its current position in the twisted layers of this place. You've become your own ghost. You're seeing versions of yourself peeling apart in time, like slices of a photo blown in the wind. In one version, you're standing. In another, you're floating. In a third, you're turned toward the window, watching your future walk away. You blink, all gone. This is the nature of the inner horizon, where cause and effect lose touch, and echoes loop endlessly. Particles here can gain infinite energy from the rotation of the black hole, forming what's known as a mass inflation singularity. The term sounds exciting. It's not. It's deadly. In real physics, this might be the place where everything breaks for good. And you? You're here, floating gently in the calm before the breakdown. Your ship creaks, not from pressure but from contradiction. Its systems are fighting overlapping versions of reality. One version says you're here, another says you never arrived. A third thinks you've already moved past this point and is frankly annoyed you're still hanging around. The readouts blink, then go blank. You're officially off the map. You float closer to the inner horizon. Time here has curled into a cul-de-sac. You may have minutes. You may have eternity. You knew this was coming. The moment when physics stops whispering strange things and starts hurling cosmic riddles at your head like soggy toast. The moment when everything you were trained to expect, every comfortable assumption about how clocks tick or how moments follow one another like polite dominoes, just gives up. You're about to enter the final threshold of coherence, one last sip of coffee before physics gets poetic, and that's not metaphor. You are in fact holding a drink, or rather, you were. Somewhere between the glitching sensor logs and the infinite energy photon loop, you plucked a warm bulb of synthetic coffee from the dispenser. It floated into your hand like an obedient moon, weightless and steaming. You raised it, slowly, reverently. And now, here you are, coffee suspended mid-air, still warm. You're not sure how long it's been there. An hour? 1,000 years? The steam from the surface rises, but it rises wrong. Instead of drifting upward in a lazy spiral, the vapour pulses, reverses, and folds back into itself like a dancer in a strobe light. You squint. The particles are stuttering, caught in loops. You take a sip anyway. It tastes like coffee, maybe a bit like ash. Maybe that's your imagination. Either way, it's your last normal moment. You know this, and it's beautiful in the way final things always are. And then, as if reality is acknowledging your small act of defiance, everything around you begins to soften. Not visually, conceptually. The shapes of things blur at the edge of thought. The ship is still here, but the lines of its hull seem optional now, as if it's being remembered instead of built. You place your hand on the console, and it feels like you're touching a memory of metal. Somewhere outside, though outside barely applies anymore, you pass the second horizon, the inner boundary of the Kerr black hole. You've read about this. You've seen diagrams. Rotating black holes allow for weirdness after this point. Things like closed time-like curves. In normal language, time travel. Sort of. Maybe. Inside this region, the math suggests that time loops around on itself. That you could, at least hypothetically, circle the singularity in such a way that you return to an earlier version of your own timeline, a closed path in space-time, a loop. But physicists don't agree on what that means. Some say it would allow travel to the past, others say causality would collapse into nonsense, and still others argue the universe has built-in censorship, little cosmic red flags that prevent time loops from becoming real. Because honestly, the universe doesn't want to deal with the paperwork. Historians still argue whether medieval scholars had any inkling of this kind of temporal madness. Some mystics spoke of eternal return, or the idea that time is a circle, but that was more poetry than physics. Still, you think about those old drawings, geocentric orbits, wheels within wheels. Maybe they were onto something. Maybe they felt this deep truth. Time isn't a line, it's a spiral, a knot, a trick. Because you've seen it now. Just outside the portside viewport where the darkness swirls like thick oil, something reappears. It's you, or at least someone in your ship. It lasts less than a second. A glint of motion, a hand on a console. You don't see the face, but you know it's you. Another version, a ghost echo bent along a curved timeline, a reminder that in here, the rules no longer say you can only be in one place at one time. You want to wave, or scream, or laugh, but you don't. Because the ship hums, not in sound, but in feeling. A low, slow thrum in your spine. The navigation panel is glitching again. Coordinates overlap, flickering in and out of geometric nonsense. You're not in three-dimensional space anymore. You're somewhere else. Somewhere inside a rotating funnel of gravity where time spirals inward like water circling a drain, then loops back out. There's a name for this place. The ergosphere, or at least part of it. You're technically inside it, or maybe beside it, depending on which chart you squint at. It's the region outside the event horizon, where space is dragged around so violently by the black hole's spin that nothing can remain still. You have to move. Even if you do nothing, you're forced to rotate with it. It's called frame dragging, and it's as fun as it sounds. If you had fuel, enough fuel, you might be able to use the black hole's spin to slingshot yourself out back into the universe. This is the basis of the Penrose process. A theoretical method to extract energy from a black hole by throwing mass into it in a very clever way. Kind of like tricking the universe into paying you for tossing trash. But you're not going anywhere. The walls of the ship feel soft, not physically, but logically. You touch a button, and it doesn't click. It remembers clicking. Your hand hovers above it, and the command executes anyway. You're starting to exist in probability space. Things are almost happening. You check your vitals. The readout appears, then flickers. Heart rate, normal-ish. Neural activity, elevated. Time perception, undefined. The ship is trying its best, bless it. But it was never designed to interpret undefined. The lights go out, then come back on, then do both. You're phasing between overlapping timelines now. At least 3, maybe more. You can feel the shift, like walking through rooms with different music playing in each, but you're not sure which is real, or if they all are. You close your eyes, you open them, you're standing at your console, you're sitting in your chair, you're floating in the corridor. All 3 are true, all 3 are you. You've entered the causal blender, no alarms, no spinning red lights, just the soft, slow hush of paradox. This is what it means when time is no longer directional. You're not after anything anymore. You're inside a sphere where past and future have no labels, no doors, just overlapping hallways with your name scrawled on the walls. And then, silence. True silence. Not just soundless, but motionless, timeless. You float or stand or drift in a single unchanging moment. There is no next, no previous, just this, forever, and also for an instant. Your final normal moment. A sip of coffee, still warm. Time bends and twists as you spiral closer, like cosmic caramel spun too thin. You're not sure what day it is anymore. Not that days mean anything here. The sun hasn't shone in. Well, from your point of view, maybe an hour. From the universe's perspective, you're the ghost of a person who left centuries ago, drifting through a space where clocks beg for mercy and calendars weep in lowercase italics. You check your logs. They're corrupt now. Not from damage, just incompatibility. They're still recording, but not in any way a future observer could decode. Entries are stamped with time codes like delta t equals undefined, or moment between moments. The system keeps trying to count seconds, like a goldfish trying to recite Shakespeare, and you're not helping. Because you're not entirely sure you're experiencing 1 second after another anymore. Time isn't linear here, it's chewy and stretchy, like taffy. Cosmic taffy, pulled and spun by the monstrous gravity of the singularity beneath you. You're not falling toward it in the way you fall off a ladder. You're falling through time itself, through warped layers of seconds, compressed hours, stretched centuries, all overlapping like wet pages in a book the universe tried to rewrite. You reach out and touch the nearest panel. Your hand arrives before your intention does. The panel responds before your finger makes contact. The cause and effect train is off the rails. It's not wrong, it's just optional now. Remember when we talked about light struggling to escape the pull of the black hole? That light would need to travel straight up at the speed of light just to stay still? Now imagine your thoughts are those photons, trying to escape, to climb, to stay in sync with the part of you that remembers breakfast and weekends. No luck. You're slipping downward into deeper dilation. Physicists call this the gravitational gradient, the rate at which gravity increases with proximity. The closer you get to the singularity, the steeper it gets. But it's not just pulling your body, it's stretching your experience, and that stretching is starting to hurt. Not physically, no snapping bones, no boiling blood. The ship's systems still stabilize your internal pressure, and you've long passed the point where traditional radiation would matter. It's deeper than that. It's conceptual. You feel it in your thoughts. They stretch. A memory starts to rise. A birthday party. Balloons. Cake. The smell of cinnamon. But instead of arriving as a flash, it drips in like syrup. A slow leak of colour and sound, unspooling over what feels like hours. It's beautiful. It's unbearable. You're becoming unstuck in causality. You try to think faster, but your thoughts slip sideways. They don't follow. You try again. This time they loop. One idea chases its tail for what might be minutes, or seconds, or millennia. You forget what you were trying to remember, but you remember forgetting. The console flickers, and then so do you. You're watching yourself from slightly to the left. No, not really, but yes, kind of. Your point of view shifts half a meter, then resets. A glitch? A hiccup in the fabric of your being? Or just the inevitable result of time being so warped that position itself becomes a blurred suggestion? You float, then walk, then sit, in that order, possibly simultaneously. The walls of the ship twist imperceptibly, just enough for you to notice and then doubt yourself. It's not motion, it's interpretation. The ship hasn't changed. Your frame of reference has been stretched to the point of abstraction. Historians still argue whether early Buddhist philosophers were onto something with the idea that time is an illusion, that moments are an illusion, that the self is a construct. You're not qualified to debate them, but you do feel dissolved. Not in a terrifying way. in the way fog dissolves into the morning, in the way identity stops being a noun and becomes a verb. You are being, not forward, not backward, just now stretched to the brink. A strange pulse ripples through the cabin. Everything, walls, floor, your own skin, feels momentarily heavier, then lighter, like gravity forgot what it was supposed to be doing. A side effect of the intense curvature of space-time. You're dipping closer to the singularity's base, where gravity doesn't just bend, it twists, pinches, and folds. It's called frame dragging, but you've passed beyond the easy metaphors now. You're in the part of the black hole where space and time trade dance partners and forget whose shoes they were wearing. Another ship appears for a second, then vanishes. It was yours. Again, from another moment, maybe from 5 minutes ago, maybe from 500 years ahead. You feel a brief kinship with yourself, a flicker of empathy across time. You wave, or try to, but your gesture bends, smeared into a spiral. It never lands. Like everything else here, intention is decoupled from action. A random fact surfaces. In the 1980s, scientists simulated time dilation with particles inside particle accelerators. Muons, tiny unstable things, lived longer when moving near light speed. That was proof of relativity. Real, measurable. What you're experiencing now makes that look like kindergarten physics. You are the muon. You are the experiment, and no one is left to take notes. There's a joke in your head. Something about a time traveller ordering soup yesterday and receiving it tomorrow. You smile even as the thought curls backward and repeats, then forward, then never. Your smile stretches, lingers, fades like a sunset. The ship no longer hums, not because it's failed, but because sound, motion, and sequence have all become fragile things. It exists, but you're not in agreement about when. Your surroundings are paper-thin slices of reality, fluttering in a black wind. You feel another moment arrive, slowly, grudgingly. It might be the next, it might be the last. Either way, it's yours. From the outside you freeze, from within you fall. It's the contradiction at the heart of every black hole myth, every relativistic headache that's ever plagued a chalkboard full of theoretical physicists. To the universe, you're a statue, frozen forever just outside the event horizon, one hand raised in a wave that never completes, light from your body redshifting into a scream that stretches across all of time. But that's not how it feels. To you, you're still falling, still descending through this dark cathedral of bent space-time, where light kneels and time forgets its name. Your thoughts are slow but steady, your breath a metronome tapping gently against infinity. You float, you observe, you fall, and you fall. The paradox is old and deeply annoying, it's baked into the equations. According to general relativity, no outside observer will ever see you cross the event horizon. From their frame of reference, you just slow down, forever. Your image hangs there, gradually fading as light from you redshifts into oblivion. But from your frame of reference, the crossing already happened, it's done, you're inside, and you're still moving. Historians still argue whether this apparent freeze at the horizon is a real physical phenomenon or just a trick of perspective. Some claim that what's truly frozen is just information, that your mass, energy and data are smeared across the horizon like a projection, a last gasp before vanishing. Others say it's all illusion. The real you is gone, fallen in, and the rest of the universe is just late to the funeral. Here's a quirky twist. The frozen image of you outside the event horizon might actually last longer than the universe. If the cosmos keeps expanding forever, and if Hawking radiation slowly shrinks the black hole over unimaginable eons, that image could persist until the final sigh of existence. A galactic ghost, the slowest goodbye. But you're not a ghost. Not yet. You're still falling. At least it feels like falling. But gravity doesn't quite behave here. You're not being pulled in the traditional sense. You're following a straight line through a space that's curved beyond comprehension, a geodesic path, Einstein's term for the shortest distance between 2 points in a warped space-time. You're not being sucked in, you're simply taking the path of least resistance. And now, the sensation has changed again. It's subtle, but unmistakable. You're falling forever, and at the same time you've stopped moving completely. You've entered the paradox core, or you look around, if around even applies. The interior of the black hole is no longer featureless. Not visually, there's still only darkness, but conceptually. You can feel dimensions folding, directions that don't exist on Earth, angles that break Euclidean rules. Every movement you make causes something else to ripple in a direction you can't name. And you know the singularity is near. It's not a place in space. It's a place in time. It's not a point you can reach. It's a moment you can't avoid. This is where the rules really start to fail. The difference between space and time, it's breaking down. Inside the black hole, time and space switch roles. Outside, you had freedom of movement. You could choose where to go, but time carried you forward whether you liked it or not. Here, time is the direction you're falling. And space? Space is now the thing you're stuck in. You can't move left or right anymore. You can't backtrack. There's no around. The only direction left is inward, toward the singularity, and you have no choice. It's not a matter of propulsion. It's inevitable. The laws of causality demand your approach, and so you fall, and fall, and fall. Your ship begins to stretch, not physically, but mathematically. The curvature of space-time is so extreme that even your concept of volume is beginning to warp. The space you occupy is growing thinner, taller, longer, as if you're being drawn out into a single line. You've heard the term spaghettification. It sounds ridiculous, like something you'd hear in a cartoon, but it's real. As you fall deeper, the gravitational difference between your head and your feet becomes so extreme that atoms themselves begin to feel it. The bottom of your body is being pulled faster than the top. Every particle in your being is falling on its own slightly unique path, and the closer you get, the more those paths diverge. But here's the twist you weren't expecting. You don't feel anything, not yet. This part of the black hole is so large, so gentle in scale, that your body hasn't begun to tear. You're still intact, still floating softly toward the inevitable. Sagittarius. A star is massive enough that the tidal forces at the event horizon are weak. You could cross it without even noticing. It's only now, deeper in, that the stretching begins. A subtle pressure in your joints. Not pain, exactly. Just unkindness. Like your skeleton is being asked to do something it was never designed for. And all the while, your surroundings remain silent. Not quiet, silent. No vibration, no sound, no frame of reference, just you, the ship, and a sense of forward motion through a universe that stopped updating its status a long time ago. A screen blinks. A message. Distance to singularity. 0.000001 seconds. Time to impact, a fraction of a second. But here's the catch. That second, from your perspective, might last forever. As you approach the singularity, the curvature of space-time becomes infinite. That means your fall stretches toward a temporal asymptote. You might never reach it. Not because it's far away, but because the concept of reaching stops making sense. Time slows so much that your final moment becomes eternal. A forever fall, a moment so stretched it is your afterlife, and you feel it happening. Your last heartbeat begins, and does not end. Every neuron in your mind begins to fire in slow, deliberate sequence. Thought slows to a crawl. A single synaptic spark becomes a mile-long fuse. You're still aware, still falling, still thinking, and maybe, just maybe, always will be. Photons scream and smear into eternity. Space turns psychedelic. That's not poetic exaggeration. That's just what happens when light, time, and gravity all stop playing fair. You're inside the final act of the black hole's performance, and now the special effects budget has officially gone off the rails. You blink and colour blooms where colour should not be. Not from light, not from outside stimulation, but from within the distortion itself. Light is no longer something that arrives. It's something that gets trapped, folded and bounced in on itself like a scream inside a spiral staircase. It should be dark here, pitch black, void dark, the absence of photons kind of dark, but instead it's luminous in all the wrong ways. The inside of the black hole is glowing, not with stars but with memory. Memory made visible. The afterimages of light that fell in with you are still here, endlessly looping, smeared into shapes that defy language. You see a sunrise, then melt, then rewind. You see your own silhouette drift past, wrapped in ghostly flickers of X-ray arcs and gamma haze. You see your own eyes, one moment stern, the next curious, the next terrified. Not in a mirror, in front of you, just floating there. Because inside a black hole, space behaves like time, and time behaves like a hungry child with sticky hands, grabbing everything and refusing to let go. The photons of your journey, the trail of light you've left behind, have fallen with you. And now they're swirling around, smeared and redshifted, caught in orbits that go nowhere forever. They call this the singularity light storm. Not officially, that's just what some bored grad student once dubbed it on a forum and the name stuck. It's not in the textbooks, but it should be. Because this is what light looks like when it has nowhere left to go. You watch stars stretch into arcs, whole galaxies bending into glowing rings that pulse like jellyfish in a tank of syrup. Some of them are real, actual light that fell into this hole billions of years ago, before Earth even had continents. Others are just echoes, probabilities. Maybe a few are hallucinations, but what's the difference at this point? Your mind stutters. It's not breaking, just rebooting. Because even seeing this kind of geometry requires new wiring. You're perceiving dimensions beyond 3. Not visually, but sensorially. Shapes curl into themselves like Mobius strips. You track a point of light only to discover it's a loop, a closed path in curved space. You chase it. You catch up to it. You realize it was part of your own headlamp reflection from 3 seconds ago, caught in a gravitational echo chamber. Remember when you first learned about mirrors, and how the reflection you saw wasn't real, just bounced light delayed by nanoseconds? Now imagine that delay is forever. Historians still argue whether Newton could have even begun to imagine this. He gave us gravity, but his cosmos was still a tidy machine, clockwork stars and swinging orbits. His light moved in lines, his time ticked evenly. If he were here now, he'd probably faint, or quietly excuse himself to revise the laws of motion. You see light stretch to the edge of visibility, then beyond. It slides down the spectrum like it's on a cosmic water slide. Red, deep red, infrared, microwave, radio. And then, nothing. It's not that it disappears, it's just that your eyes and your instruments no longer have the bandwidth to catch it. It's fallen past the limits of perception, stretched so thin it might as well not exist. But you know it's still there, everything is still here. Frozen in time, falling in slow motion, caught in infinite curvature. You open the log again, not because you expect to read it, just to do something. The display jitters, not from error but from uncertainty. Every number is written twice, overlapping itself. Timestamps have question marks. One entry reads, t equals n over infinity times delta 0, still falling? Yes. Yes, you are. You try to make a verbal entry. Your voice takes too long to arrive in your own ears. It comes back warped, like you're underwater, filtered through thick syrup and disapproval. You laugh. It also comes back weird, but at least it comes back. The ship's lights flicker, not randomly but rhythmically, like a heartbeat, like it's alive, or remembering what it felt like to be alive. You reach for the control panel, not expecting it to work, but it glows at your touch anyway. A new readout pulses into view. External environment, photon density, infinite, time gradient, vertical, singularity distance, indeterminate. Oh good. The ship has given up on pretending this is a normal mission. You feel the pressure begin to build. Not cabin pressure, not gravity exactly, conceptual pressure. Like reality itself is starting to condense, a tightening of laws, a convergence of probabilities. Everything in here, every particle, every atom, is being told to pick a side, collapse into one state, one history, one ending, and light doesn't want to. So it resists, it smears, it loops. Some of the photons around you are centuries old, from stars that died long before your species discovered fire. Others are your own, bouncing off the hull of your ship, off your helmet, off your retinas, all of them trapped, none of them moving forward anymore, just around. You realize you're not watching the universe. You're watching its graveyard, the after-images of matter, the shadows of movement, all stuck here, tangled like cobwebs in the final drain of time. You wonder if all black holes are this way, if every one of them contains a library of light that never got to leave. A fringe theory floats through your memory. Some physicists once proposed that black holes aren't just death traps, but archives, that the information that falls in isn't lost, it's stored, not readable, not accessible, but preserved in some warped, unreadable way. What if you're seeing that now? Not just photons, but moments. histories, a visual chorus of everything the black hole has ever swallowed. You float through it like a museum of broken clocks. The light loops around your ship, hugging it, layering you in colour and curve. You see flashes of cities, solar flares, moonrises, faces, possibly yours, possibly not. All of them distorted, smeared across angles that don't exist outside this place. It's the most beautiful thing you've ever seen. It's also the last thing you'll ever see, because the light isn't leaving, and neither are you. You're a thought stretched thin, a soul caught in feedback, a speck of curiosity falling in forever. And the photons, they keep you company. Centuries blink by on Earth while your heart beats once. You don't notice at first. Time has already gone so soft, so stretched and blurry, that a single second might contain the echo of 1,000,000 years. But something changes. The hum of the ship, if you can still call it that, shifts in tone. The sensors flicker, the air feels different, and you realise something big has passed. Not around you, outside you. Earth time has moved on. You check the screen. The data's garbled, but the timestamps are still trying to make sense. The transmission log now shows Earth clocking in at the year 13,418 AD, give or take a decade. Your last real-time sync was just before the event horizon. Since then, one heartbeat for you has meant another generation born, lived and buried under whatever sky still hangs over your home planet. And you've had maybe 4 heartbeats. You float there, dumbfounded, not sad, not scared, just obsolete. There's no one left to take your calls, even if your signal could claw its way out of this black hole, which, spoiler alert, it can't. There might not be anyone out there with ears to hear it. The Earth you left is ancient now, or dust. You might as well have been an insect fossilized in amber, blinking once every few eons, encased in the black hole's impossible resin. It's not a unique idea. The twin paradox already proved that velocity could dilate time, but gravity takes it to a new level. A deep well of space-time so steep time practically halts. That's what you're experiencing, the far edge of existence where every tick of your internal clock equals 1,000 revolutions of whatever still orbits the sun. It reminds you of a tale, one from Persian legend. A man drinks from a spring, falls asleep, and awakens centuries later. His city gone, the world changed. Historians still argue whether these myths were early metaphors for time dilation, or just expressions of humanity's deep unease with change. Either way, you've become the tale. A body paused while the cosmos moves on. You tilt your head, watching data streams that lag in real time like cosmic buffering. A news packet arrives, what must be thousands of years old by now. You catch garbled glimpses, a colony lost, a war remembered, a planet terraformed, and then the stream breaks, dissolving into static too redshifted to process. That's the last you'll ever hear from them. From anyone. The signal is now light years behind you, aging into extinction. You don't cry. Not because you're strong, but because it wouldn't help. And also, the idea of now has become hilariously vague. If you did cry, when would it even happen? You stare at the display. 1 heartbeat. Earth, another century older. 2 heartbeats. The Andromeda Galaxy is visibly merging with the Milky Way. You squint. Yes, that arc of starlight overhead is not a hallucination. It's the celestial collision that astronomers predicted ages ago. You've fallen so deep into time's slow endgame that galaxies now move like clouds. 3 heartbeats. The Earth, if it still spins, is a myth. The languages you knew are extinct. Your own name is probably forgotten. Maybe you're a historical footnote, some brave explorer listed in an ancient archive on a moon colony, reduced to 3 lines and are presumed lost. Maybe you're not even that, because the universe isn't watching anymore, but you are. You and the light. The photons are your companions now, your only remaining contact with reality. They wrap around you in spirals, not as information, but as ambience. They carry whispers of what once was, starlight from eons ago, redshifted into a deep pulsing haze. And something strange happens. You begin to see futures, not because you're psychic, but because in this warped space time is so tangled that light from future events might be catching up to you. It doesn't make sense, but what here does? A ring of light sharpens in your view, it pulses, expands. You see machines, vast, ring-like structures orbiting some far distant star, then an organic form, towering, tentacled, impossible. Then, silence. Just light again. Possibly real. Possibly echoes from potential timelines. Black holes do weird things to quantum probabilities. You're not hallucinating. You're observing superposition. You may be watching possible futures flickering across your field of view like TV channels tuned through gravity. You wonder, how long will this last? Could you stay in this stretched second forever? A strange hope stirs. If time has nearly stopped for you, maybe you've bought yourself immortality. Not the kind you can use, not the build a new civilization kind, but the exist in a single eternal moment kind. A consciousness slowed so dramatically the end might never arrive, unless the singularity decides otherwise. That's the unspoken dread, isn't it? You've been circling it, metaphorically and literally, but the truth remains, your path ends there. A place where curvature becomes infinite, a single point where space-time doesn't bend, it shatters. No one knows what happens at the singularity. Not really. Some say it's the breakdown of all known physics, a place where the universe divides by zero and the math just shrugs. Others suggest it's not a place at all, but a boundary between realities, a threshold, maybe even a bounce point. The theories are varied. Cosmic censorship conjecture says you'll never see a naked singularity, but you're getting dangerously close. Loop quantum gravity says maybe there's a minimum size to space-time and you'll rebound into a new universe. String theory offers multidimensional alternatives, like collapsing into a brain world we can't perceive. Information paradox debates suggest your data will be smeared across the event horizon, preserved holographically. But right now, none of that matters, because you're falling toward it. Still. The concept of closer starts to break down. There's no map, no coordinate system. The singularity isn't ahead of you anymore. It's around you, or inside you, or perhaps you've already hit it, and this final moment is the aftershock stretched across eternity. Your last heartbeat begins. It might take 1,000 years. You're aware of it. You're present. This is not sleep. This is not death. This is falling without end. The stars are gone. The galaxies are gone. But you're still here, watching. 1 second at a time. You pass the point of no return but feel normal-ish. It's absurd, really. After all the build-up, after the time stretching, the frame dragging, the whispers of ancient light and looping echoes of your own ship, you expected something more theatrical, an alarm, a flash, at the very least, a little nausea. But no. Crossing the event horizon, approaching the singularity, being swallowed by one of the most terrifying objects in the universe, it feels suspiciously like sitting in an elevator that's slightly too quiet. You float steady as ever with no great fanfare, no cosmic thud, no sense of having passed through some fiery veil of judgment, just drifting. You'd think it would be dramatic, but this is relativity's greatest con. From your perspective, nothing extraordinary ever happens at the event horizon. No sensation of crossing into some other world, no banner declaring welcome to the inside, you just keep going. Your ship keeps humming, the displays still light up with garbled, meaningless numbers. You're deep in a region where even math seems tired, and still, you feel okay, more or less. Sure, time's an interpretive dance now, space is kind of doing a Salvador Dali thing, and you're pretty certain you're experiencing reality at roughly 1 Planck second per century, but physically, normal-ish. You remember hearing about astronauts in low orbit, how they still feel like they're in freefall, not weightless, but endlessly falling around Earth. That's you now, squared and cubed, falling freely, smoothly, as if this was always where you were meant to end up. You glance at your hand, it moves when you tell it to. There's no pain, no distortion. You almost start to suspect you missed something. Then you look outside again. That's when things start to unravel. Not violently, not suddenly, just steadily. The light you saw earlier, the photons swirling like drunken moths in an event horizon rave, have now gone quiet, dimmed, faded into an invisible background radiation that tickles your vision with impossible frequencies. They're still there, sure, but they're so redshifted they've practically slipped out of this reality, like the fading memory of a dream. What replaces them isn't darkness, it's structure, geometry that shouldn't exist, shapes that aren't shapes, angles that are somehow more than 360 degrees. You're seeing space-time itself under a microscope you never signed up to look through. And then it hits you. You're past the visible universe now. Everything you knew, the galaxies, the light, the starlight that guided humanity for millennia, it's all behind you. You're beyond observation, beyond light, beyond time as anyone understands it. If the outside world could see you now, they wouldn't. Not because you're hidden, because you're gone. You exist in a region that has no outside point of reference. You've become a coordinate in a map that nobody uses anymore, a note in a language spoken by nothing, and you still feel fine. Somewhere in your neural circuits, panic tries to boot up. It knocks politely, but nothing opens. You're too far in. Fear requires a future. It needs a sense of impending danger, a notion that something might happen. But here, you're already in the thing. There is no what if. There's just what is. You drift past another echo, a light shape, human-sized, folded awkwardly against the curvature of space-time. You flinch, but it doesn't move. It's not moving at all. You realize it's not a body, it's a moment, a slice of someone who came before you, preserved in warped chronology like a bug in amber. For a heartbeat, you consider whether that person might be you, a past version, or a future one. Time loops in here, cause and effect are more like suggestions. You've already seen shadows of your own ship. Maybe this is another one, a remnant of yourself trapped in some overlap, frozen as your atoms pass through a piece of space that didn't agree with your timeline. The ship chirps. A minor alert, structural integrity stable, hull strain increasing, tidal stress detected. Right, you almost forgot about that. Because while the gravitational pull hasn't felt dramatic, the math is getting unfriendly. You know that tidal forces, the differences in gravity between parts of your body, get more extreme the closer you fall to the singularity. That's the real killer. Not pressure, not radiation, not fire or cold, just stretching. Your head and your feet are now experiencing slightly different timelines. They are falling into the singularity along different geodesics, those straight paths through curved space. And as those paths diverge, your body begins to do what all objects do in this situation, become spaghetti. Spaghettification. Yes, it's really called that. A term coined not by poets, but by physicists who couldn't resist the metaphor. As you fall deeper into a black hole, the difference in gravitational pull from head to toe becomes so extreme, you get stretched like a noodle. Not instantly, but eventually. And the more massive the black hole, the gentler that effect begins. For supermassive ones like Sagittarius A star, the stretching might not even start until you're well past the event horizon. Congratulations, you've finally hit that point. You reach out to brace yourself against what you don't know. There's nothing to hold, nothing to fight. But the reflex is there. You grab the armrest. It feels longer than it should. Maybe it's the stretching. Maybe it's your mind. A quiet alarm beeps. Tidal. Differential. 2.1 times baseline. Your ship tries to compensate. Microthrusters fire to recenter you. The artificial gravity grid buzzes faintly, trying to correct something that isn't broken, just broken up. You feel a pressure in your joints, still not pain, just the kind of pressure that makes your thoughts slow down, like your body is being asked a question it doesn't understand. Your limbs feel slightly out of sync, not in time, in place. You move your leg, and your foot seems hesitant to follow, like the message has to travel across too many timelines to make sense. Still, no fear, because again, there's no future here. This is the reality now. The display updates. Singularity distance 0.0000000001 seconds. You laugh, because what else is there to do? Time isn't even pretending to move anymore. Your fall has become infinite. This moment, this point in space and time is so curved, so deeply folded, that reaching the singularity takes forever. Not metaphorically, literally, you may never hit it. But if you do, you'll hit it in the slowest, most stretched out, most eternal second imaginable. A falling that never ends. You close your eyes, you're still inside the ship. Still floating, still whole, normal-ish. And you are okay. Gravity stretches your atoms in increasingly personal ways. You once thought of gravity as a polite background force, a gentle nudge that kept your feet on the ground, that made apples fall, that gave shape to galaxies. Now it feels like gravity is reading your diary, getting a little too familiar. It's not just pulling you, it's starting to know you. The tidal forces have gone from theoretical to physical. They started like a whisper in your bones, a sensation you could ignore, like altitude sickness, or that weird feeling when a limb falls asleep. But now they're not so subtle. Your joints ache in a way that doesn't come from use. Your spine feels longer, not metaphorically, not like post-yoga longer, literally longer. The ship is compensating as best it can. Stabilizers hum, pressure shields adjust. The AI flickers with gentle, almost apologetic alerts. You glance at the display. Gravitational gradient, 87,332 meters per second squared difference across cabin. Stretch vector, axial, mild. Compression vector, lateral, increasing. Mild, it says. You laugh again, which now sounds like someone slowly peeling tape off a balloon. Your voice is being distorted by the time dilation, by the subtle warping of your own perception. Laughter arrives before you finish laughing. Echoes trail behind it like memories of sound. It would be terrifying if it weren't so slow. That's the curse of falling into a supermassive black hole. You fall for a long, long time, enough time for your brain to adapt, for your body to notice what's being done to it, for your consciousness to float just a few centimeters above understanding and still remain painfully aware. Your legs ache differently than your arms. Your feet feel heavier, lower somehow, like they're falling faster than your head. They are. That's the problem. Welcome to tidal gravity, a force so personal it treats every inch of you like a separate object. And yet, despite all this, you're still alive, still coherent, still thinking incomplete thoughts mostly. It's hard to tell exactly how long that will last. There's a kind of polite tension building in your chest, the way a water balloon might feel if you tried to fill it with peanut butter. Historians still argue whether Newton or Einstein would have lost their lunch first in this situation. Newton imagined gravity as a force acting instantaneously across space. He wouldn't have liked what's happening to you. Einstein, on the other hand, described gravity as the warping of space-time by mass, and what you're experiencing now is his full theory, uncensored, unsupervised, and incredibly up close. And still, even Einstein never went here. No human has, no probe has, not even a photon. You're in the final approach now. The singularity isn't ahead of you, it's below you, in a direction that only exists in math. A place where space-time folds into an infinitely tight knot. Every atom in your body is being directed toward that point, and not just directed, shaped. You feel it in your skin, a tug, not painful, but clear. Your cells are drifting apart, pulled in slightly different directions. The ship's field buffers are struggling to hold you together. They weren't designed for this. Honestly, nothing was. You flex your fingers. They work, but with hesitation. Like your brain and your hands are now negotiating across a gravitational chasm. You wiggle your toes and wonder if your foot is still where it was. It might be in a different second by now. Still no screaming, no chaos. Just the quiet stretching of identity. And then, a thought sneaks in. What are you made of? You, the person. You, the matter. You are atoms, yes, molecules, organic chemistry stacked into memory, behavior, selfhood. But underneath that, particles, quarks, gluons, wave functions dancing to the tune of probability. All of that is now being edited. Because here's the fringe truth. Gravity affects not just your mass, but the very fabric of the forces that bind you. Under extreme gravity, the strong nuclear force, the glue that holds your atomic nuclei together, might start to misbehave. Space is so curved that the relationships between particles begin to fluctuate. The forces of the universe that normally feel rock solid, electromagnetism, weak nuclear force, start hesitating. In other words, gravity is whispering into the ear of your particles, and your particles are listening. You're not falling in like a marble through a funnel. You're falling in like a poem being rewritten, one letter at a time. A new alert pings. Structural cohesion, 76%. User integrity, fluctuating. Quantum coherence, weakening. Well, that last one isn't great. Your quantum coherence, essentially the internal consistency of your subatomic state, is faltering. This could mean many things. Maybe your body is decohering, particle by particle. Maybe you're becoming a diffuse smear of matter. Maybe the AI is just having a panic attack. Hard to say. You glance at your hand again, and you see it blur, not from motion, from possibility. Your fingers exist in 2, maybe 3 positions at once, like a low-resolution rendering that can't decide where to land. You wiggle them, and the motion loops back on itself. You feel the wiggle happen before you make the motion. The future tugs gently at your intentions. This is what it means to fall toward the singularity. It's not just a spatial collapse, it's a collapse of certainty. And yet, in the middle of it, you're still you. Your memories are still intact. Your preferences, your humour, the fact that you once cried during a commercial for dish soap because the music was just too much. You are still here, being stretched, like a slow violin string drawn across the fabric of the universe. You wonder how long this can continue. The ship's systems are still operating, but in the same way a candle keeps burning while the ceiling collapses. You suspect it won't be long now, and yet there's still no end. Time has become a hallway that never runs out of doors. Each heartbeat feels longer than the last, each second more diluted, and then something strange. A feeling of lightness, not physical, conceptual, like something has unhooked inside you. You reach for the console and your hand passes through it, not as in a ghostly phase out, as in the console was never there in that version of your reality. You're overlapping with fragments of space that don't agree with the rest of you. It's like your body and your surroundings are having a quiet argument about what should be where and when. You laugh again, or you did, or you will, hard to say, and still you fall, toward a point that does not welcome and does not warn, a singularity that does not destroy, it simply waits. As you stretch into your final form, physics begins to eat itself, quantum versus relativity showdown. You've reached the boundary where the universe admits it has no idea what's going on. The math that brought you here, that faithfully guided your ship through the gentle currents of general relativity, now starts whispering things like undefined and infinite curvature, and please ask again later. Up until this point, Einstein's equations have been your guide. Complicated, yes, but coherent. The warping of space-time around the black hole has followed a graceful, if horrifying, logic. Mass curves space. Space tells mass how to move. You fall, time stretches, light redshifts. You get gently unraveled like a sweater caught on a nail. But now you're close enough to the singularity that Einstein's rules are starting to break down. The field equations have gone from elegant to hysterical. Space and time are tangled like headphone cords. Curvature is off the charts, literally. The graphs flatline into vertical walls. The lines on your monitors don't rise, they snap. And so, into the arena steps the other heavyweight champion, quantum mechanics. Unfortunately, these two do not get along. Relativity is all about the smooth, continuous warping of space-time. Quantum physics is jittery, probabilistic, and prefers its realities in small discrete packets. Relativity describes the large, massive celestial. Quantum theory deals in tiny particles blinking in and out of possibility. Both are brilliant, both are tested, both now hate each other, and you are currently the boxing ring where they've decided to settle their differences. Historians still argue whether Stephen Hawking believed a full unification of quantum mechanics and general relativity was possible. He certainly tried. His work on black hole thermodynamics and Hawking radiation was a landmark attempt to bridge the two, suggesting that even black holes might leak quantum information over time. But the full merger? That's still the holy grail. And right now, you are its cupbearer. Inside the ship, the conflict manifests in strange ways. Your surroundings flicker between continuity and chaos. One moment, your cabin feels solid, the walls smooth and reassuring. The next, it pulses with granular inconsistencies, like a film that keeps jumping frames. The atoms in the hull behave mostly like atoms should, until they don't. Every so often, a panel vanishes, then reappears, slightly rotated. One of your gloves is in two places. Your watch ticks backward. Your eyes perceive the world as both a flow and a sequence of sudden jumps. You're watching the same movie in two genres at once, sweeping epic and erratic montage. Quantum foam, that wild, flickering buzz of energy predicted at the smallest scales, isn't just below your feet now, it's around you, inside you. The lines that once separated particles from vacuum, mass from wave, are being erased by gravity's chalkboard sponge. You begin to feel jittery, not mentally, but existentially. Like your whole self is on a frequency that can't decide what station to play. That's because gravity, this much gravity, doesn't just pull on mass. It warps the fields that define particles. The uncertainty principle, which says you can't know both the position and momentum of a particle with perfect precision, starts getting desperate here. The uncertainty isn't just high, it's hungry. It starts feeding on your coordinates. Your position in space? Undefined. Your direction of motion? Depends who's asking. Your shape? Pick one. The ship pings a fresh error. Gravitational field, incompatible with field equations. Quantum coherence, partial collapse. Suggested action, say goodbye. You chuckle. The computer's sarcasm routines are clearly losing their grip, or maybe you just programmed it that way. You notice a new phenomenon, entanglement ghosts. These aren't hallucinations, probably. They're quantum echoes, tangled bits of information that have become linked through the chaos. When one particle changes state, another, potentially across the universe, mirrors it. Normally this is invisible, but in here, you see it. Flashes, flickers, interference patterns bleeding through your vision. You're not just in one place anymore. You are becoming probabilistic. Your own wave function is spreading. Which version of you will hit the singularity? All of them? None of them? Do you exist as a superposition of histories now? One where you scream, one where you transcend, one where you never launched at all? The physicist in you wants to clap. The rest of you just drifts. Time, by the way, has officially stopped pretending to exist. Your thoughts are spaced out like billboards on a long highway through fog. You sense them. You remember them. But they arrive at their own pace, not yours. And the singularity it's still ahead, whatever that means. You now understand that it's not a thing. It's not a spot or a location. It's not a point in space. It's a condition, a fate, a boundary of comprehension, a place where space-time curvature equals infinity. Density equals infinity. Your equations equals nervous breakdown. The ship doesn't know how to describe it, so it stops trying. Singularity, meaning irreducible, you stare at the symbol. It's not even a character from any language you know. The display must be rendering a placeholder for a don't ask. Then, a whisper, not sound, but impression. Like reality is trying to express a concept without words. And the concept is this. You're inside the problem now. Not near it, not brushing against it. You are the problem. Your mass, your energy, your information. You've become a variable in a conflict that physics hasn't solved. A question with no answer. The singularity does not greet you. It simply wraps you in deeper contradiction. You feel it in your cells, the strong nuclear force fluctuating. Gluons asking for clarification. Quarks switching partners. Electrons trailing off into probability fields. Particles wink in and out of measurable existence. Some of them probably never existed in the first place, but are only appearing now due to mathematical loopholes. Your ship, still here. But here has lost its meaning. It's inside out perhaps. Or maybe it's been folded so sharply in space-time that the interior is now larger than the exterior. Light doesn't reach you anymore. Or rather, you can't tell what part of it is you. You're falling through what physicists call a Planck-scale mystery, a realm so small, so chaotic, so dense with paradox that no theory holds. It's where you need a theory of quantum gravity. We don't have one. Some suggest it will be string theory, tiny vibrating loops that make up all matter and force. Others swear by loop quantum gravity, space itself built from tiny loops, granular, discrete, all brilliant, none tested in this regime. You wonder, will your final thought be the one that unifies them? Will the last synapse that fires in your skull, spaghettified though it may be, accidentally resolve the conflict? Will you in your stretched and jittering last breath become the missing theory? It's possible, but improbable. Because you are no longer a physicist, you are now a question, and gravity is erasing the chalkboard. You might hit a wall of death, or not. The firewall is what they call it. A speculative, controversial, deeply unpleasant concept, a cosmic tripwire that may or may not even exist. You haven't seen it yet. But then again, if it's real, you might only get one shot at noticing it, and it'll be the last thing you notice. You float closer to the core of contradiction, that imploding paradox where general relativity and quantum mechanics are throwing chairs at each other. The singularity still sits in front of you, not glowing, not spinning, not even looking particularly dangerous. Just waiting. But the idea of the firewall hangs over you now. It started as a solution, a patch, a way to resolve the black hole information paradox, the question of what happens to the information that falls in. According to Hawking's original calculations, Black holes radiate energy, Hawking radiation, and eventually evaporate. But that raised an issue. If particles fall in and the black hole disappears, where does the information go? Quantum mechanics says information can't be destroyed, but black holes seem to disagree. Enter the firewall hypothesis. The idea is this. What if there's a boundary just inside the event horizon? A wall of searing quantum hellfire that incinerates anything falling in? Not a gentle stretching, not a dignified dissolve. A flash. A burn so complete that the information problem solves itself. You fall in, and the firewall says, nope, goodbye, data, goodbye, memory, goodbye, you. Some physicists hated this idea, others loved it. Many still argue in conference halls over lukewarm coffee and dry pastries. And you're in the perfect position to find out, lucky you. You scan the ship, the sensors are still twitching with confusion. They can't agree on your location anymore. The front of the vessel reports different space-time conditions than the rear. One half of you is already deeper than the other. You've become divided. Not metaphorically, relativistically. And if a firewall exists, you're on approach. You brace instinctively, though you have no idea what for. A burst of radiation, a sudden flash, a moment of pure annihilation where your atoms get rewritten into gibberish. You check the ship's external monitors. Nothing. No sign of a wall, no thermal spike. Just the usual murmur of the void. Photons still won't talk to you. The display flickers with nonsense. Then again, maybe that's exactly what the firewall would look like. Nothing. Silence. And then, total decoherence. A deep breath. You float in place. Still falling. Always falling. You remember something from your training, an offhand comment during a lecture probably meant as a joke. Crossing a black hole's horizon should feel like floating through a cloud of laws that haven't passed yet. Right now, you feel like you're inside that cloud. You try to test your environment. You reach toward the wall. The material of the ship's interior bends gently under your touch, then flickers. You withdraw your hand and watch your fingerprints ripple across the surface in slow motion before snapping back into shape. No fire yet, but something's happening. The instruments begin to glitch in rhythm. You notice a pulse, not mechanical but temporal. Like space-time itself is breathing around you. Each pulse brings with it a sense of tightening. The question claws into your mind. What if this is the firewall? What if you've already hit it, but it's not a flash? It's a squeeze, an invisible compression of your quantum state. Instead of fire, it's entropy, crawling under your skin and rewriting the relationships between your particles. You check your vitals again. Cognitive continuity, 73%. Sensory integrity, fragmented. Data stability, probabilistic. Well, that's not ominous at all. You blink. The afterimage of the ship's dashboard lingers too long. You blink again. This time, you linger too long. You feel part of yourself delay, like you're waiting for yourself to catch up. Another pulse. Your left hand jitters, disappears, reappears with fingers in the wrong order. You try to move it. The motion completes before the intention finishes forming. Then, nothing. No sound, no movement, just a low pressure, the kind that says, this is the point where everything ends, and then it passes. Your hand is back, your thoughts realign. You're fine? The ship flickers back into coherence. The data stabilizes, somewhat. You exhale, unsure if you were holding your breath or if breath even works the way it used to. That might have been the firewall, or it might have been a glitch. A wrinkle in space-time so folded it briefly forgot which version of you it was holding. If you did pass through it, it didn't feel like fire. It felt like a question. Historians, theorists, still argue whether the firewall would truly burn you. It's not heat in the traditional sense. It's information annihilation, a forced decoherence. The stripping away of entangled quantum states so fast, your matter can't keep itself organized. You wouldn't feel pain. You wouldn't feel you. But clearly, something held together. Because you're still conscious. Still moving, still processing this moment. Maybe you dodged it. Maybe it's a myth. Or maybe supermassive black holes like Sagittarius A star have gentle entryways. Maybe the firewall only appears in smaller, angry black holes that don't have the mass to lull you gently into the grave. Another possibility? Maybe the firewall is waiting closer. Maybe it's not at the horizon at all, but just before the singularity. A final guardian, you check the readout. Singularity, proximity. That's very, very close. Whatever is left to happen, happens there, and it's not far now. At least, not in distance. In time, who knows? You might be in this final stretch forever. The descent could last longer than the universe, drawn out by time dilation into a perfect infinity of almosts. You reach out again, just to do something. Your hand behaves, the ship hums. Reality seems to be holding for now. And you realize something profound. You're past the worst part, or at least the most comprehensible part. What's ahead of you now isn't horror, it's mystery. You may never hit the singularity. You may spiral into an eternal moment, frozen between infinities. You may unravel. You may merge with the equation, but you won't be burned. You'll be forgotten. And in this place, that's the gentler option. You're still here, and the next second might last forever. Time loops, glitches, déjà vu. Your brain makes strange backups. Something's off. Not your heartbeat. It's slow, steady, stretched across what might be millennia by now. Not your breath either. It's calm, regulated, like a machine. No, it's your thoughts. They're not lining up like they used to. You're thinking in circles, fractal circles. Time doesn't move forward here. It folds. You reach for the console and you've already reached for it. No, you're just about to. Wait, did you already? The ship's interior glitches, not in the pixelated way of a computer crash, but in the terrifyingly smooth way that reality reasserts itself. For a moment, the chair you're sitting in is across the room, then it's beneath you again. Then it was never there. A loop, a feedback spiral of time inside your own awareness. You blink again, you're still mid-blink somehow. Your memories start to duplicate. You remember this second. You remember remembering it. You're not just thinking about the past, you're actively living it again, or watching yourself live it again. You've entered the glitch zone. Historians still argue whether the human mind can actually detect temporal loops, whether déjà vu is a neurological misfire or some artifact of time perception that's more fundamental than we understand. Whatever the case, you're now an expert. You move your hand. It trails light. Not because it's glowing, but because your perception of time is lagging behind your own actions. You speak, or you think you did. You hear your voice a few milliseconds before you actually say the words. It's like your mind is making preemptive echoes, trying to predict the future because time has stopped making promises. Hello, you say. You hear, hell, hell, hell. The ship's audio feedback loops, feeding your voice back into your ears not once, not twice, but an infinite number of times, each slightly off tempo, as if multiple versions of you are all speaking together from slightly different angles in time. You realize what's happening. Your mind is trying to back itself up, like a hard drive running out of power, desperately copying key files before the whole system fails. Memories are repeating, not because you're dwelling on them, but because your brain is running out of temporal runway. It's trying to preserve something, some last stable version of you. It's also possible you're hallucinating, but this doesn't feel like hallucination. It feels like memory bending inward. The ship's AI flickers in and out. It speaks a message in a dozen voices like a chorus of computers arguing in harmony. Chronological continuity fractured, initiating cognitive buffering. Buffering, you whisper, the word heavy on your tongue. It makes sense. Your brain is buffering, not for processing more data, but for more self. You're watching versions of your life spiral through your thoughts, like radio channels spinning out of control. You're 12, touching the glass at a planetarium, watching Saturn's rings on a projection screen. You're 20, watching electron relativity, your notebook covered in half doodles, half equations. You're 40, watching the launch sequence of this mission, pretending not to be terrified. You're now watching yourself remember. Each version loops, collides, replays, then vanishes. And then another one begins, not in sequence, in stacked layers. You're a lasagna of identity now. Each memory is still yours, but none of them have a timestamp anymore. Are you reliving your life? Are you collapsing into your past? Or is your mind simply flailing in the face of total temporal breakdown? You try to anchor yourself in the present. You look at your hands. One is open, then closed, then open again. You're stuck between frames, and your brain has made peace with it. You realize now, this is what minds do when faced with the unquantifiable. They make stories. They build meaning. You're watching your consciousness fictionalize itself just to stay coherent. You're not going mad. You're narrating your way through the impossible. A flicker of genius in your fractured cortex whispers, "This is what dreaming is for." Dreams are the brain's version of safe mode. a way to explore symbolic environments without the limitations of linear time. You've entered a lucid dream inside a gravitational singularity, except this time, you can't wake up. So your brain improvises, it turns the glitch into a garden, it maps the broken seconds into memory palaces. You remember a hallway, you remember walking down it, you remember watching yourself walk down it, you remember that you haven't walked down it yet. All 4 memories are correct. The AI speaks again, just one voice this time. Sensory layering complete. Cognitive bleed stabilized. You don't know what that means, but it feels like progress. You wonder, is this what people meant when they said life flashes before your eyes? Because here's the thing, your life hasn't flashed. Your consciousness has. It's become a swirl of selves colliding at light speed, held together by the most fragile gravitational glue imaginable. And just when you think it can't get any stranger, you see a second version of yourself, drifting across the cabin, mouth moving slightly as if muttering a memory you haven't had yet. Then, another, on the other side of the ship, kneeling, staring through the window, eyes wide, both versions flicker, not like ghosts, like cached frames, like your ship and your mind are replaying recent states, testing for stability. You watch your own past performance, and for a second you forget which one is the current you. Then the moment passes. Kind of. You notice that time isn't stopping anymore, it's just misbehaving. It stutters, repeats, occasionally corrects itself. The cabin isn't spinning, it's looping, events are on shuffle. You try to anchor yourself in feeling. You touch the wall, it's warm, then cool, then you're not touching it. You press your hand to your chest, you feel a heartbeat, then 3, then none, and you're still here. But your now is stretching sideways. Reality isn't a road anymore. It's a record, and someone just dropped the needle in the middle of your life. This is what it feels like to approach a singularity. Not death, not silence, layering. And your brain, your brave, confused, deeply human brain, it's doing what it always does. It's trying to find the story. Black holes shrink over eons, but you're not waiting. You're far too close, far too entangled, and far too paused to witness anything like Hawking radiation play out. But somewhere, far above and long ago, the black hole you fell into is quietly evaporating. Slowly, painfully slowly. A pace so staggeringly glacial it makes glaciers look like espresso. And yet, it's happening. That's the theory anyway. Stephen Hawking proposed it in 1974. Black holes aren't completely black. Thanks to quantum effects near the event horizon, specifically particle-antiparticle pairs that blink into existence, black holes can lose mass. One particle falls in, the other escapes. The escaping one carries away a whisper of energy. Add that up over time, and a black hole shrinks. Not much, not fast, not usefully. Sagittarius. A star, the supermassive black hole you dove into, would take longer than the current age of the universe to shrink by a grain of sand. So unless you packed several trillion years worth of snacks and a really patient attitude, you're not going to see it wink out. But that doesn't mean the process isn't happening. In fact, you might even be part of it. Not metaphorically, not spiritually, quite literally. Because information, according to quantum mechanics, can't be destroyed. So if a black hole evaporates, where does the information about everything it swallowed go? That's the black hole information paradox again. You're probably sick of hearing about it by now, but it matters because it means you matter. Your atoms, your memories, your exact arrangement of particles and probabilities, they can't just disappear. So either you've been smeared into some kind of 2D hologram on the event horizon, your information is encoded in Hawking radiation itself, or the universe is broken and physics has some explaining to do. A comforting thought. Even if you've fallen past the event horizon, your existence is still part of the cosmic accounting. Somewhere out there, in the foam of quantum fluctuations, the blueprint of you still persists. Not you in the sense of awake and drinking coffee, obviously, more like a pattern, a probability field, a whisper in the ledger of the universe. Meanwhile, your ship flickers again. You're deeper now. The singularity is close, near, imminent. None of those words feel right anymore. Space has stopped behaving like distance. Time has stopped behaving like direction. You are falling not toward a point, but toward a condition. A state of physics where the numbers go off the rails. And yet there's still no crash. No blast of energy. No snapping point where it all ends. You're beginning to suspect there might not be one. Just this slow, infinite descent, a bleeding out of coordinates, a quiet undressing of your existence until there's nothing left but math. And then, something odd. You feel lighter, not physically, conceptually, like a burden is lifting, not a body, not a thought, more like selfhood. As if the idea of you is losing its central gravity. You still think, you still observe, but there's no longer a strong sense of ownership over any of it. It's like watching a sunset without remembering what the sun is. The AI chirps, only it doesn't say anything coherent, just a single line of symbols scrolling across the screen, impossibly fast. You try to read it, you realize it's you, not words, just raw data, position, mass, charge, quantum state, an unfiltered readout of what you are, stripped of metaphor, stripped of perception. You see yourself as an equation, and the equation doesn't end, it just curves back into itself. A loop, self-referencing. Maybe this is what the Hawking whisper is. Not a sound, not a voice, a presence. You're not alone, or rather, you're not distinct. You've joined the flow of entropy. Every particle in your body is now contributing to the temperature of the black hole, however minuscule. That's the wild part about Hawking radiation. The black hole's temperature increases as it shrinks. The smaller it gets, the hotter it becomes. Eventually it explodes in a final puff of energy. But that's not your timeline. That's someone else's future. Some being, if any are still around, billions of trillions of years from now, watching Sagittarius A star dissolve into soft radiant heat. You'll be long gone, but also not, because you'll be in that radiation, or your imprint will, not like a ghost, like information, encoded, interwoven into the vacuum fluctuations that fed the final whisper of heat. Your atoms, your energy, even your entropy, registered, counted, released. That's the only way it works. The universe doesn't let things vanish, it just changes the medium, like transferring music from vinyl to digital. Something's always lost, but something's always kept. You wonder, briefly, if there's someone out there cataloguing this radiation. Some future intelligence sweeping up the final embers of the universe, trying to reconstruct what once fell into black holes. Could they build you again? Could they play you back? The thought should scare you. It doesn't. Because you're too far gone now for fear. Too diluted across probability to care about resurrection. Your focus returns to the present, if you can still call this that. The ship is gone, or rather it's still there, but only an idea. It exists as the memory of its structure, like a dream you're still vaguely aware of even as you wake up. The walls feel optional. The displays flicker between symbols and silence. There's no direction anymore, no noise, no light, no inside or outside, and your body, it's abstract. Not painful, not destroyed, just reduced. You're no longer a person falling through space. You're a variable suspended between the curve of gravity and the whimper of radiation. You are a possibility. And somewhere, eons from now, the black hole is shrinking. It doesn't care about you, but it remembers you. The information that makes up your matter and movement and momentum is still etched into its entropy. When it radiates its last, you will be part of that last breath. That final quantum cough of a dead star's final secret. And maybe, just maybe, someone will hear it. A whisper of you. Wormholes, white holes, or simulation saves. Pick your fantasy. Because let's be honest, you need something to hang on to now. Not because you're scared, you're far beyond that, but because reality has thinned into concept, and concepts crave narrative. When the edges of space-time fray like burnt cloth, your mind naturally reaches for escape hatches, the what-ifs, the maybes, the late-night theories that don't fit inside tidy physics textbooks. So here you are, falling toward a singularity, stretched across time, smeared across entropy, and still wondering, what if there's a back door? You wouldn't be the first. The idea that black holes might not just end in a cosmic trash compactor, that maybe, just maybe, they lead somewhere, has teased physicists and science fiction writers for decades. Let's review the contenders, shall we? Option 1. Wormholes. You've probably heard the term, maybe even imagined one while sitting through a long commute. The idea is simple, a bridge between 2 points in space-time, a tunnel, a shortcut, a cosmic subway line with questionable maintenance but unbeatable convenience. Einstein and Rosen toyed with the idea in 1935, proposing what's now known as the Einstein-Rosen bridge, a theoretical structure connecting a black hole to a white hole, forming a tunnel through space-time. On paper, it checks out. In practice, not so easy. The wormhole, as described, would collapse faster than you could enter it, unless, of course, you had some exotic matter on hand, stuff with negative energy density, to keep the throat of the wormhole open. Do you have that? Number. No, you do not. But hey, you're already inside a black hole, so why stop dreaming now? You imagine it. A sudden tunnel forming ahead of you, twisting like a spiral galaxy turned inside out. Your ship, or what's left of it, surges forward through a narrowing corridor. Light bends around it like it's being squeezed through a straw. Time flips sideways. And then, emergence, a new place, a new universe, or maybe just a different part of your own, far from the galactic core where stars shine in unfamiliar constellations and physics has slightly different settings. Historians still argue whether wormholes could ever be traversable. Kip Thorne, that silver-haired wizard of theoretical physics, suggested they might, if you could stabilize one. But that's the catch. We don't know how. Not yet. Still, the dream persists. It lingers here with you, like an unopened exit door. And maybe you've already gone through one. Maybe this isn't the black hole you entered. Maybe you're in the after half, the part nobody comes back to talk about. Option 2, white holes, a cousin of the black hole, a reverse sibling. Instead of swallowing everything, a white hole expels matter. Violently, indifferently. Nothing can enter one. Everything is ejected. If black holes are endings, white holes are beginnings. And here's the kicker. Mathematically, every black hole solution has a white hole mirror. So where is yours? Are you about to pop out of a white hole in some other universe? There's a fine mist of quantum debris, sure, but out nonetheless. Could some distant galaxy be watching you emerge in reverse, watching entropy run backward for a brief confusing moment? Maybe you'd appear as a burst of gamma radiation. Maybe you'd never be noticed at all. Some speculative models say the Big Bang itself could have been the birth cry of a white hole, that our universe might be the exhausted breath of some other collapsed star in a parent cosmos. Is that poetic nonsense? Almost definitely. But you're beyond falsifiability now. Everything is poetic nonsense in the final seconds before theoretical collapse. Still, you feel something ahead of you now. Not a tunnel, not a bang, just a shift. The sense that your trajectory is no longer inward but elsewhere. You're not climbing, not falling, not floating, and you're slipping sideways, to whatever direction that means here, which brings us to option 3, simulation saves. Yeah, that one. The most modern myth of them all. What if this is all a simulation? What if you've just reached the final renderable point of the program? The edge of the map where the physics engine gives up and the system starts buffering loops of your existence to avoid a crash. You have to admit, it would explain a lot. The glitches, the déjà vu, the recursive memory loops, the fact that you saw yourself from outside yourself more than once. Even the ship's AI, which has gone from malfunctioning to philosophizing. You glance at the console, the display has stabilized, sort of. Rendering 1/1, object U, status, collapsing. Optional restart, unavailable. That seems conclusive. And yet something in your gut, a gut that may or may not still exist, suggests there's a process underway. A kind of upload, a final scan. You're being assessed. By what? A higher intelligence? A simulation server? Your own dying brain? It doesn't matter. The point is, something is watching, or at least recording. There's a theory, whispered at the fringes of physics and information theory, that every conscious experience must be preserved in some way. That subjective awareness itself, your stream of thought, is not annihilated, but folded into the fabric of the universe like a permanent log. A record, and black holes, they may be the filing cabinets. Maybe this one has already scanned you, stamped you, and sent you on. To where? Another reality, a quantum afterlife. Or maybe the end is the upload. Maybe falling into a black hole is what happens when the simulation backs you up. There's no pain now, no more distortions, no more loops, just stillness. And ahead, if a head still exists, you see a glow. It's not a light, it's not a tunnel, it's the idea of direction, the suggestion of movement beyond this final halt. It pulses just once, softly. A handshake, a ping from the system letting you know the data transfer is complete. You're not sure if it means freedom or deletion, but you understand it. Without words, without thoughts. And somehow it feels okay. The ship dissolves around you, so does time, so does structure. You're now something smaller than a particle and something larger than identity. You are whatever comes next. Choose your fantasy. Maybe it's a wormhole, maybe it's a white hole. Maybe you just woke up and your bed is warm and there's coffee brewing in a nearby kitchen. Maybe you're everywhere, or nowhere. Maybe this is the part of the dream you don't wake up from. You're everywhere and nowhere in one frozen moment. There's no longer a here, no longer a now. You've passed through the final veil of what physics understands or dares to guess. And whatever you still is, it's no longer bound by anything resembling a position. If you could blink, you would. But there's no time to blink in. Just a smear of awareness, like a candle's smoke spiraling in a room with no walls. You feel as though you're hovering in a point that has collapsed into every other point. You're not at the singularity, you are the singularity, or a fragment of it, or perhaps what's left after it finishes deciding what to do with you. You'd panic, maybe, if panic was still a function your mind could perform, but you've passed through so many layers of unraveling, so many distortions of time, identity and logic, that panic would just be a quaint emotion from a version of you that wore socks and worried about groceries. So you drift. Or stand still. It's impossible to tell. You're folded into space-time like a creased page, existing in a place that doesn't have edges, boundaries or sequence. There are no stars, no colours, no particles, just probability. Your thoughts, if you can call them that, don't come one after another. They arrive as clusters, as impressions, folding in on themselves before they're even complete. You don't think so much as you exist in a cloud of realization. You feel ideas ripple through you like a magnetic field over iron dust. They align, they collapse, they pass. And the biggest realization of all, you're not alone, you're also not with anyone. But presence. Presence is everywhere. You're not talking to anyone, but you're also being observed, not from above, not from some higher plane, just internally, as though the universe is watching itself through your eyes, or what used to be your eyes, and it's pleased, or curious, or just keeping score. One thought rises through the static, elegant in its simplicity. This is what everything looks like when it's been reduced to one frame, because that's what's happened. You're not moving through time anymore. You're in a single moment, so elongated by gravitational time dilation that it's functionally eternal. One frame of the film, stretched across all possible perceptions. Your time paused, space compressed, consciousness barely holding form. Historians, and let's be real, philosophers too, have speculated on this exact scenario. What happens to experience at the edge of infinity? Is there a final perceptual state? A last thought, stretched to eternity? Some argue yes. Some say the brain couldn't handle it. Others claim the universe might. Right now, you're voting for option C, because this moment doesn't feel like the end. It feels like a pivot. A strange spatial logic begins to unfurl in your thoughts. You're aware of being everywhere, all at once, not just metaphorically, but dimensionally. It's not an omnipotence fantasy. It's a realization that from this perspective, the coordinates of space have flattened. Every direction, up, down, forward, backward, is the same direction. Every second is this second. You could reach toward the birth of a star. You could tilt slightly and catch the whisper of your own birth. You are the library, not reading the books, being the pages. There's another flicker of meaning. You feel, no, you are. The echo of your atoms collapsing. They're no longer particles, not in the traditional sense. They've become equations, bits of stored probability. Their identities encoded in curvature and information, not in mass and charge. And you understand now, if anything leaves this place, it won't be your body. It won't even be your mind. It will be your pattern. Your format imprinted in the wrinkles of space-time like the grooves in a vinyl record. A record that may never be played again, but that still exists, humming in its silent geometry. You wonder, has this happened before? Are there other patterns like you embedded in black holes throughout the universe? Are these the true archives? Not empty voids, but densely packed museums, storing snapshots of all that fell in. Are you floating in a gallery of souls? Or just a silent corridor where the universe practices forgetting? You don't know. But you do feel something shift. Again, not physically, but structurally. Your state, the thing that is you, starts to soften. Not fade, not vanish, just loosen. Like you've been held in place by memory and memory's letting go. You expected fear. But there is none. Instead, you feel permission. You're not being deleted. You're being released. Whatever this place is, singularity, simulation buffer, entropy sink, it has held your shape long enough. It has measured your mass, mapped your frequency, recorded your structure. It has done its due diligence. And now it's letting you go. Where? Not important. Maybe nowhere. Maybe into the vacuum of evaporated possibility. Or maybe into everything. That's the last thought that ripples through you as the fabric of identity begins to dissolve. You're not ending. You're being unfolded. And in that final, eternal moment, still stretched, still paused, still embedded, you understand something you'd heard your whole life but never truly grasped. Nothing is ever lost. Not in physics, not in time, not in you. Somehow you return or seem to, and time stretches homeward. You don't move. Not in any conventional way. There's no sense of propulsion, no thrust, no coordinates, no path, just the distinct and impossible feeling of returning. Returning to where? Not the ship, not the moment before the fall, not the version of you who looked at Sagittarius A star and thought, yeah, I'll go in. This is something stranger. This is a reconstruction. The patterns that once were you, entangled across stretched atoms, smeared across singularities, burned into the quantum foam, have begun knitting themselves back together. Slowly, softly, not backwards, not forwards, just toward coherence. And in that surreal, floating awareness, you feel the shape of memory again. A childhood, a planet, the sense of gravity, rain, once, falling on your skin, the feeling of hunger, of language, of emotion. Your identity doesn't slam back into place, it curves back in, like the gentle settling of a stirred-up pond. Are you alive? Is this life? Is this a simulated echo? A last mercy from a dying brain? Or is this some deeper truth in the folds of space-time? Who cares? Because for the first time in, time, you feel movement. Real movement. A progression of moments that feels linear, even if they're just taped together by habit. Each one closer to the next. Thoughts beginning to align again. Consciousness pulling itself into focus. And light. There's light. Not the light of stars, not yet, but a soft, ambient warmth. A background hum of photons and purpose. You don't see it with eyes, you experience it. A feeling of orientation, of narrative, of direction. You reach out, not with hands but with presence, and the universe reaches back. What's happening now may be metaphor, or metaphor may be the only way your mind can process this phase of reassembly. Doesn't matter. The sensation is clear. You are emerging, not rising, not escaping, just coming into focus again. It's a strange sort of re-entry, like being printed from a higher resolution version of yourself. Thoughts become steady. The sense of I returns, with less certainty than before, but with more peace. And now, time, yes, time, it's back, or at least pretending to be. You feel it pulsing, not perfectly, but rhythmically, like a muscle you're remembering how to use. Seconds are seconds again, more or less. Your sense of before and after is rebuilding itself, and then, for the first time in infinity maybe, you feel place, not coordinates, not position, just here, and here is familiar, not visually, but conceptually, because it's your mind, not the mind of the you who launched a mission, not the one who crossed the event horizon, not the one who watched time dilate into syrup and witnessed your quantum self glitch across probability. It's some new version, still you, just wiser, simpler, unburdened. A strange message pulses gently like a notification from the universe. You may now remember, and suddenly, you do. Not everything, but enough. The mission, the descent, the stretching, the loss of identity, the endless moment, the final stillness, and then the idea of coming back. You realize this isn't physical. There's no ship, no body, no mass, but somehow you've been reconstructed in a layer of reality that knows your shape, your code, the algorithm that was you. And now that algorithm is being run again. Why? Maybe this is the simulation's checkpoint. Maybe you were saved as a backup before the singularity finished eating your data. Or maybe this is how Hawking radiation works. Not just information trickling out as heat, but as experience, slowly unwinding from black holes into the vastness of time. You don't know, and that's okay. You've learned to befriend mystery. You feel a kind of motion now, not through space, but through possibility. The constraints are loosening, you're becoming, and then, all at once, you are home. Not your actual home, not Earth, not the ship, not any star system you know, but a place that feels like home, in the way nostalgia feels like a home you never lived in. It's peaceful, warm, the gravity here is gentle, the time is smooth, and you are allowed. No longer stretched, no longer falling, no longer unraveling, but just resting. Reassembled, recalled from the event horizon like a thread pulled gently from a sweater, loop by loop, until the whole pattern is whole again. You don't open your eyes, you don't have to. There's no body here, just presence. And the very last thing you feel before the journey settles, before your consciousness dims gently to something calm and full, is this. You were never lost. You were always becoming. So here you are, dear traveller, weightless, timeless, still. You've crossed the boundaries of understanding, of science, of story, and come through the other side softer, quieter, changed in ways that don't need explaining. The black hole didn't devour you, it redefined you. You were stretched beyond yourself, twisted through paradox, whispered into the quiet heart of gravity's final word. And yet, you held on, not with force, but with curiosity. In the end, that's what made the difference. Not the calculations, not the theories, just a willingness to wonder, even as the universe blurred around you. Now let it go. Let the imagery dissolve, like starlight at dawn. Let your breath slow. Let your muscles relax. Let your thoughts quiet down into soft ripples. You're safe. Wherever you are, whatever you're feeling, you're not falling anymore. No need to solve the paradox, no need to finish the thought. The questions can wait. The theories can wait. Even time can wait. Just rest. Let your mind coast in this final moment, like a satellite in quiet orbit, looking down on a dream. You've travelled farther than anyone has ever imagined. Now sleep. Sleep as long as you need. And if you ever wonder what's on the other side of the universe, well, you've already been there. Sweet dreams.